Hello and welcome to another episode of Bible Answers in 5 Minutes. I'm your host Brad. And in today's episode we are going to look at a very interesting question, and that is, what are the oldest manuscript copies we have of the New Testament? As you may or may not know, there are about 5,000 manuscripts of the New Testament. It is by far the most well-documented form of ancient literature in all the world. The second place doesn't even come close. Homer's Iliad, there are only about 500 copies. The Bible has over 5,000 copies. So there's really just no contest in terms of the number of sources we have when it comes to being able to validate the validity of the Scriptures. Now, like I said, there are thousands of manuscripts of the New Testament and of the Old Testament, of course. And we have different manuscripts and fragments from all over the world in different languages and whatnot. But the oldest ones we have, the completed texts, come from the 3rd, 4th, 5th, 6th century. The Codex Vaticanus, Alexandrius, and Sinai's, for example, are the largest completed texts. But the oldest single document is actually from the Gospel of John. It's from when Jesus was on trial with Pontius Pilate. And this little postcard, you can see it here in the museum, this postcard-size fragment that we have left over from an old papyrus scroll. On its front and back, it records that conversation between Jesus and Pilate in his Gospel. Now, this is from 120 AD, which is pretty amazing when you consider that John wrote his Gospel last of the 4. He wrote his in around 90. So we're looking about 30, maybe 40 years at the most after John wrote his Gospel to have a copy. So within one generation, for an ancient document that's almost 2,000 years old, that's pretty good. So here's what the document, and you can see it in the front and on the back, what it looks like. So if you want to know what it says, just in plain English, it comes again from John 18:31 through 33 on the one side. I made bold what the writing is there. The writing that's missing is just regular size font. And then on the back you can see again you can see the pieces of the fragment that we have that are written. The bold is what is actually written on the paper. So you can see this conversation between Jesus and Pontius Pilate. Different parts of it at least, and so this is the oldest fragment we have, which is pretty amazing when you consider that papyrus wasn't meant to last. It's not a book, it's a scroll. It gets carried around from place to place, and all things wear out over time. So just to have something that old is pretty amazing. But actually, it may not even be the oldest gospel fragment that we have. A death masks, which were quite common, and the poor people, they would use like paper mache. And in Egypt, death masks were made in such a way they would take pieces of things they didn't want. In this case, some pagan woman died, and she made her family made a death mask out of a gospel, possibly of Mark. In 2012, it was announced that they had found this mask, and the dating already shows that it could be as early as 80 AD. That is amazing, because Mark wrote his gospel anywhere between 50 and 60 AD. So to have a fragment of the Gospel of Mark from only 20, 30 years after it was written, but also written only 50 years after Jesus' death and resurrection. But to have it written before 100 AD is amazing. So this fragment is still being studied. The experts who are studying have not revealed their complete findings yet, but we'll see what happens here in the next few years. So there you go. That one little copy fragment we have of the manuscript of John is about 30, 40 years after the original copy was written, which is pretty old, not too bad. But that one of Mark, which I find to be the most fascinating, it's pretty cool. I mean, if that is what they think it is and how old they think it is, then that would mean only 20 years after Mark actually wrote his gospel, and probably about 50 years after the death resurrection of Jesus himself. So to have something pre-100, in that first century is amazing. So time will tell if it is what they think it is. So we'll see how that goes. Anyways, if you have any questions about this topic or any other topic, leave them in the comment section below, and I'll do my best to answer those Bible questions and make a video about them. All right, have a great day, God bless, and see you next time.